Hello. Well, according to Dave Rubin, with Texas turning red, all the results are looking very hopeful for Trump's second term as president. And we can all say, all right, Democrats, read my lips, no more Texas. And having got that out the way, I shall now tell you about my opinions on what's been going on. You're going to get lots of pundits analysing things and predicting things and all the rest of it. And me not being in America, I'm not really qualified to go into the minutiae. All I can give you is my distance view of what's going on. And sometimes that can be very informative. And also to tell you that this morning I woke up at 4 o'clock and tried to find out what was going on, and I couldn't. It was still a lot up in the air at that time, and of course, I noticed my husband wasn't there, and I was checking through the computer before I knew it was 5:30. The time does go fast when you're having fun, doesn't it? And I got out of bed and went out, and there was my husband in the sitting room watching the news there. And apparently he'd been up since 3 o'clock watching the news, even more unsettled than I was by the prospect of a Biden win. And I can just talk about what has happened over here. Of course, many people were very concerned in Britain, very concerned by the American elections because it meant all sorts of things. I was concerned because Biden wasn't going to be the president, and that would have meant two things to me. First of all, it would have meant that the Americans had voted in a man they knew was incapable to lead them. And that seemed beyond the realms of any sort of sense. That's the first thing, and disappointing altogether in human nature. And the second thing I was worried about was Biden being pushed along a course by his radical leftist supporters. And this would not only cause rifts with Britain and the rest of the Anglosphere, but also probably end up causing wars of various sorts all over the place. So I was really quite worried about the whole prospect. So I do hope that Dave Rubin is right, and that it's now a Trump win. But just to let you know how some people feel about it, there's a chap I know called, what am I going to call him? Let's call him Simon. He told me that Trump couldn't possibly win, and he was absolutely certain it was going to be Biden because Biden was a good man and Trump was a total bastard. And that's it. You see, people who just listen to the BBC, of course, that's the sort of thing they're going to get. I wish I'd have actually bet him money, but I didn't. I'm not really a betting woman. But then there's this, and this really did upset me. And it's from a friend and a colleague of mine. I'll call him Andrew. And he is actually a member of one of Britain's many ethnic minorities. And he's an extremely intelligent man. We've been friends for years, him and his family. And I always thought he had a lot of respect for me, as I have for him. But I got this, I had this little text conversation with him a couple of nights ago, and I found them I found the whole conversation very disturbing. But I am absolutely certain, judging from Andrew's attitude, which is more or less the same as Simon's attitude, they've been getting their ideas from a single source, obviously. Now, so he sent me this first text, and it goes like this. What do you make of Trump? You must be conflicted. He's a narcissist, unpresidential idiot, but he supports your conservative politics, doesn't he? That's reasonable enough. And then I answered him as follows. I'm not at all conflicted. I don't give a toss what Trump is like personally. Being narcissistic isn't a disqualification for a political leader. In fact, it's probably a positive advantage. Even better, he doesn't screw the staff, isn't senile, hasn't involved America in any pointless wars, has improved the American economy, and is unpredictable enough so that dictators like Kim Jong-un have decided to keep on his good side. His uncompromising attitude has even convinced the Arabs to see sense, and I thought that was impossible. No, not at all conflicted. I think you've probably been watching too much BBC. They hate him because he isn't their type at all. He's a loudmouth who says exactly what he thinks, whether or not that's diplomatic. Nothing the mainstream media hate more than frankness. That was my response. And I thought that's where it would go, more or less, up till then it had been a reasonable conversation with Andrew asking me, he thinks Trump's an unpleasant person, which I'm sure he is, and as a person, and me saying, no, he may be an unpleasant person, but he's certainly an efficient president, or at least as efficient as one might expect. But I got this answer from Andrew, and that really, well, okay, here we are. He started off by saying, he's not screwing the staff, 'cause he can't. LOL. That's an odd way to start to begin with. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just carry on with the rest of his message. His past with women is colourful. He's a misogynist, a racist, and a liar. He can't grasp the complexity of the COVID-19 pandemic or the perhaps even bigger issue of climate change. He doesn't understand the actual job of a president. It's not like running a business. He doesn't care about anything but his own power and ego. He cannot grasp the detail of presidential briefs or the ability to critically evaluate national and international issues. Yes, he talks strong and has an ability with sound bites, like Hitler, I guess, and others like him. And then he finishes with this. I think the world would be better off without him, never mind without him as president. It was that last sentence that really hit me in the gut. I mean, Andrew is not usually the sort of person to wish other people out of existence. Even worse, basically what Andrew was saying with that letter was that because I'm, I have conservative leanings, a Brexiteer, I think when he said your conservative politics, he meant the idea of Brexit and that sort of thing. And what he was saying was that because I support Trump, who is Hitler and has he's not only Hitler, he's stupid Hitler. He doesn't understand the basics of anything. I mean, what does that make me? This is where I got really upset, because basically Andrew was telling me I'm a Nazi supporter. I know that there are many people in America who have lost friends and even fallen out of speaking terms with relatives. But we're here, yeah, how many miles? 5,000 miles away. And I'm losing a friend over this, because I can't have a friend who thinks I'm a Nazi. I mean, it's just not possible. What sort of opinion does he have of me? And what sort of opinion do I have of him for having that opinion of me? And let's just go through what he says, though. He starts off with, he's not screwing the staff because he can't. I mean, what sort of a thing is that? You're making assumptions about this man's physical capabilities as a means of denigrating him. And you accuse him later on of being a misogynist. I mean, even if he couldn't, that's not a cause to insult anyone. And by the way, there are men who attack women in various ways, who are, let's put it, are unable to actually complete the act in the conventional way. If so, you know, it's not even it's not even any sort of a criticism of his intentions. But that's a sort of, it's a world view of Trump, isn't it? He doesn't know anything about Trump's physical capabilities. All he knows is he hates him so much he's willing to believe anything about him. All right, the next one. His past with women is colourful. Right, yeah. You find me... And this is the other thing, because Andrew's past with women is also rather colourful. That's, again, he will not make allowance for that, even though he knows all about that himself. He's a misogynist. I haven't seen that. He might be, but I have not seen any evidence of that. I've seen him making locker room jokes. That's not quite the same thing. And that expression, you know, I'm not going to say it because YouTube have these things now that stop you. But he made a famous expression about what women would let a man do if he were rich enough. You know, that was the truth. That wasn't misogynistic. There are women who would let you do anything to them if they thought they could get money out of it. Yeah, there are men who would let you do anything to them if they thought they could get money out of it as well. So, you know, it's... You know, you might get a female politician saying, yeah, well, you could if you had enough money. It's locker room talk. It's not nice. It's not polite. But that doesn't actually make you a misogynist. It tells you have an opinion about a certain sort of woman who has no respect for herself. Okay, that's that out of the way. A racist. I really haven't seen an example of racism from him. He might have come out with stuff, but I haven't heard of it. And I know that Biden has certainly come out with stuff. So, you know, we're even Stevens there. If you want to put anything in the comments that you might have caught him saying. And a liar. Well, yes. He's a liar and he's a blowhard. And he's an exaggerator, right? You find me a politician who is absolutely honest. There isn't one. There are a couple that come quite close to it, and they generally get pilloried by the media because the media really do hate honest people. And I have to say, even the voters hate honest people, because when people come out with things sometimes, they often get, you know, oh, so you mean X, and then that's the end of their political career. Okay, He can't grasp the complexity of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, look, mate, who can? There are, Sweden have more or less not had lockdown. There are some restrictions. It's not as free as some people think, but they haven't done anything like what we've done in Britain. And their figures aren't substantially worse. A lot more died at the beginning, and then it petered out. And in Britain, a lot fewer died at the beginning, and then it sort of blew up because, when you're saving people from infection and then you let them out and expose them to infection, guess what? They get the infection. The COVID-19 pandemic, or the perhaps even bigger issue of climate change. No, he understands that very well. But that's a huge issue on its own. But, there are lots of people crying that there's terrible things happening, that we're doing terrible things to the environment. Quite sure we are. And then there are others who say, no, this is a natural cycle anyway, and we can do this and this and this about it. There was one professor who was sacked from an Australian university for finding evidence that the coral reefs around Australia were not in fact dying. And he had the figures to back himself up, and they sacked him. Can't remember his name now, but yeah, it should be fairly easy to find. So it's not like he can't grasp the complexities. That's the point. Andrew can't grasp the complexities. He doesn't understand the actual job of a president. Oh, yes, he does. The job of a president is to lead the nation and try and get them into a good economic position so they can live decent lives. And he certainly has done that. It is not like running a business. I'd say it is, in many respects, like running a business, not completely, obviously. He doesn't care about anything but his own power and ego. How do you know that, Andrew? That's your assumption based on your attitude. He cannot grasp the detail of presidential briefs. I don't know. I've not been in an office with him. Or the ability to critically evaluate, Andrew, split infinitive. Or the ability to critically evaluate national and international issues. Oh yeah, for somebody who's managed to reach an agreement with Kim, the dear little leader, with who's managed to get the Arabs to start dealing with Israel instead of bombs going off all over the place. Yeah, you think you don't evaluate national and international issues? This is the longest period of peace that any American president has held since, I don't know what, Eisenhower. Yes, he talks strong and has an ability with sound bites. Yes, he has. He's a media star as well. Like Hitler, I guess, and others like him. Listen. The other one who was good with sound bites was Kennedy, wasn't he? Would you say Kennedy was Hitler? Kennedy actually nearly brought America to the brink of nuclear war, didn't he? With pushing Russia the way he did. He apparently he was on the point of making a violent phone call to Khrushchev when one of his advisors told him to just shut up. It could have gone a very nasty way there. But every president has his faults. And some presidents are good at soundbites. Reagan also, he was good with sound bites. Again, he was a media man. That doesn't make him like Hitler, though. Just because Hitler was good with sound bites doesn't mean that everyone who's good with sound bites is Hitler. Alice in Wonderland world, I have mentioned that it's before that this world is starting to sound like Alice in Wonderland. I don't know how many of you have read it, but there's a thing during the Mad Hatter's Tea Party when they, Lewis Carroll, Charles Dodgson was a mathematician and a logician. So there were many logical arguments in that book. And one of them was when Alice said, I mean what I say, or rather I say what I mean, and that's the same thing, isn't it? She said. And then I think it was the March Hare said, no, not at all. You can't say I I eat what I see is the same as I see what I eat, and that's true. So you have this problem with language, don't you? Because I mean what I say and I say what I mean does more or less mean the same thing, but not I see what I eat meaning the same as I eat what I see. And that's there's a subtle difference, and mathematicians are still trying to work out the difference. And actually they're doing that because of computer languages. You see, the difference between I see what I eat and I eat what I see, but a computer doesn't. And when you're making computer languages, this causes problems. And they're still fiddling about with that even today. It's a big field of research. Okay, let's get on with Andrew. I think his final sentence, I think the world would be better off without him. I think the world would be better off without him, let alone him as president. What he's saying there is, he should be erased. Now, in order to want that, look, I don't like Jeremy Corbyn. I think he's a nasty little man. I think he's a political opportunist. I think he would have made a terrible prime minister. And I think he was a puppet of the radical left in his party. I do not wish him out of existence. As a matter of fact, I believe that as a small-time backbench constituency MP, he probably is doing a fair amount of good. He set up all sorts of schemes for, not for everybody in his constituency, but for a certain proportion of them. He is doing good work for them. I am aware that some people, even if you don't like them personally, and even if you don't want them to have any power over you, have some good qualities that might be useful to humanity somewhere along the line. That is, I don't like him. I don't want to have anything to do with him. I wouldn't even like to be in the same room as him, but I don't wish him out of existence. I don't hate him that much. For Andrew to hate Trump that much, there has to be something switched over in his brain. And that is the sort of thing that's causing the bad politics in America. It's the same thing, but what interests me is how the infection has come over to this country, and no doubt it will be in other places as well. And I don't know why there's this hatred. Now, some of it is obviously the BBC whipping things up, but there's something else there. And I don't know what. My speculation is that people see in Trump a sort of Rorschach test thing. They see their own faults reflected back at them somehow and for some reason. I'm saying that because, as I said, one of the things he accuses Trump of is a colourful past with women when, quite frankly, so has he. And I'm wondering if there are other things that Trump is exposing that he doesn't like in himself. And that's the reason for him wishing Trump not to be there. It's just a speculation. I mean, he might watch this video and he might get back to me telling me I'm being very nasty to him. And maybe I am. I am just speculating because I can't understand why he has this absolute hatred of a man who is actually not hateable. He is, you may disagree profoundly with what he's doing, but not that despicable that he deserves not to exist. All right, well, yeah, that's my take on the election so far. By the time you watch this, the results will all be in, and then we'll really know what's going on. And so for the rest of you states who are still counting your votes, I wish you all, and the rest of the USA, the best of luck. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share, share, share.